From the Daily Mail, Trump warns Iran could launch nuclear war in weeks as it's pummeled with Israeli bombs and city is struck by 5.1 earthquake. Now, you know why that earthquake thing's actually really scary?
Man-made?
Well, who knows? The argument being, was it an earthquake?
Was it testing a nuclear weapon?
Or was it a bunker buster? Or were they testing a nuclear weapon?
Or like
deep underground?
Denial weapons, like vibration tech. They might have been.
I don't know about that, maybe.
Nikola Tesla set off an earthquake in lower Manhattan.
A lot of the speculation is immediately like, did China bring in the components to finish the nuclear weapon? And did they just test a detonation underground? Or is it a coincidence that a 5.1 earthquake just hit Tehran?
I think volcanic activity.
And that's very close to Fordo.
Yeah, there are frequently seismic activity in the area.
Yeah, they have earthquakes there. Yeah.
I think volcanic and seismic activity are related to terrestrial explosives too. You can induce earthquakes.
I mean, the question is whether or not it was natural or whether it was an underground nuke, or if they're testing one, if they're like, oh,
it tested
popping off, so let's put it together and see if we can make one work.
Because normally you take
it was in. I think they said it was in Sork.
Yeah.
How close to Tehran is that?
It's 23. Let me actually check. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see.
Maybe they are testing what they got.
It is actually rather far away from Tehran.
So they would test it far away from Tehran if they're going to test it. This is something Scott Horton.
And it is kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Scott Horton was talking about the differentials of the nuclear fissile material. You got your plutonium and then you got uranium. The enriched uranium bombs, well, they make bombs. They don't make missiles because it's so heavy. You need a big bomb. That's what they dropped in Hiroshima. Then the plutonium stuff you can put on the end of a missile. It's a lot lighter, but the Iranians don't have access to that stuff. They don't have the plutonium enrichment capabilities. They have the uranium.
Right.
But that doesn't indicate that they're going to be able to shoot a missile with it anywhere. They'd have to load it into a big plane, and it'd be very obvious.
They don't have the delivery system for that. Not for air-based, but there are other ways of launching. You can launch.
Okay, wait, sorry. Correction. It actually is rather close to Tehran. So they're saying it's south of Semnan City, not province, which is probably within 60 to 100 miles of Tehran.
Okay.
Interesting.
We would take ours
not too far from Fordo.
Is it like the middle of a desert where there's not a lot of stuff?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, that could be a secondary target. Put it on the map, guys.
Interesting.
If the Defense Department wants some help, let me know. Check this place out.
I can actually
ground penetrating radar. Let's use this new Doppler tech that they were scanning underground the pyramids with, and look for these.
I feel like they already have all that data.
183 kilometers.
Yeah, because if Trump said they weren't going to nuke, that would make me think that they were. This like mind game upon mind game.
Because he was just at the press briefing, he's out with reporters, and they're asking him specifically, "Are you going to bomb?" Are you going to bomb on behalf of the Israelis? And he said, what? That's the dumbest question I've ever heard. Why would I tell you that? So talking about the nuclear, this story, how often do we play stories? Our media is a part of the story. The story gets placed that the only thing that can work is a nuclear weapon. Then you're back to Tim's suggestion that they're really going to offer us something much less, which is the boots on the ground. Which I still think.
Big ask.
I'm like,
that's what it's called.
I think there's something like genetically in humans that love the idea of a leader, of one human leading us to victory. Yeah. But Trump needs Congress's approval supposedly. He's got the Patriot Act, but he's supposed to say, look, we have to destroy instead of being like, they just can't have it, guys. Sorry, shut up. I'm in charge. No. He
can take action. He just has to inform Congress within 48 hours. He can put boots on the ground, but he has to, within 90 days, go to Congress and ask for their permission to continue funding. So he has a lot of room to do things immediately, but then afterwards he has to mop it up.
Is that because of the post-Patriot Act, or is that what it was?
Pre-Patriot Act.
Yeah, he's always had the ability to he can just do a few things, 48 hours to notify Congress. Now, I don't know about the nuclear. I don't know if the launching nuclear weapons falls under that.
Blowing up an enemy ship maybe would be considered because it's emergency and you don't have time to appeal to Congress. That's
not even really an emergency.
The argument.
Department of Defense can do it. President Trump authorizes from the Situation Room. They inform Congress within 48 hours. He's within the rules
of declaring. That's how conflicts. Okay, all right. I mean,
you didn't know that?
No, not that. No. I thought
He's
Woodrow,
commander in chief of the military. He's allowed to. He can fully direct the military to do operations and.
Ian, when was the last time you went to the White House?
I don't think I've ever been.
You've never been?
I've never been.
Never been.
I watched that in totality 2 days ago. I was like, I owe it to Dave Smith and Douglas. I got to watch this.
Here we
What's
are.
all
Look
the
at us.
hubbub?
Have you been to Iran?
No.
Oh well, who? None of us have.
I've been to Saudi Arabia.
I've been.
Not Iran.
I've been falsely accused of going to a Holocaust deniers conference in Iran by the SPLC, which is not true.
2 weeks ago, someone
Close.
called into an earlier program on Sirius and accused me of being an honorary member, having received honorary membership in the KKK, for hating blacks.
Here's another thing about them trying to stop their bomb.
Well, the
Get them from
KKK's
getting a
new
bomb.
DEI program is,
I mean, if they want me, they can honor me as long as they like. I obviously don't care for the KKK. But anyway, Tim, what I want to know is, because obviously we're sitting around here at this table discussing this, I wish, if talk about going to the White House, I want to go in the Situation Room and just sit in on the discussion surrounding what they actually know about Fordo. I feel like they know so much more than what we could possibly.
This is my
understand about
this
it.
this was my concern with Trump meeting with Bannon, because and apparently I don't know. I think Tucker called Trump and then apologized for saying that he went a little too far with the things he had said, because Tucker had said that Trump was complicit in this war, but then also said Trump was negotiating in good faith to stop it. So I respect. I think Tucker deserves a great deal of respect in that regard. But meeting with Bannon and the talk with Tucker, my concern is Trump's basically saying to them, guys, you know me. Here's why. Like, Bannon worked with Trump in the White House. Bannon's like, no, we can't do this. Trump sits down with Bannon and says, here's what I can tell you. Slides a piece of paper over and be like, this is why we do what we do. And then Bannon might be like, holy crap.
But so, like, if the president, any president, were just like, I want to fire missiles at that building in that country, they can just do it. And then they have 48 hours to go to Congress and be like,
well, hold on.
and they can do it over and over and over and over and over again.
No, Ian, that's not how it works. The president, if he wants to blow up a building, can just do it, and he goes to no one, and then just smiles, puts on a tan suit, and everyone forgets
That's
about it.
post-Patriot Act reality. But before that, Congress is supposed to issue the war declaration.
Let me tell you about Barack Obama's disposition matrix, where he'd be
Killed
like,
Americans.
he'd be like, kill that guy, and then he went to no one, and no one did anything about it.
They didn't do anything because he was first black president. You couldn't be on the wrong side of history by disagreeing with him.
The reason I'm bringing this up
He's
is
just straight up killing people.
He was, and Americans at that. I mean, obviously the guy was, hanging out with Al Qaeda, but he was still an American citizen.
the way that Trump is
Well,
like
not even
dangling
Anwar,
it.
his kid.
Right.
Abdurrahman wasn't hanging out with anybody. He was just eating Yemeni food.
The way that Trump is
Yemenis.
dangling the power right now of like, well, I could nuke him, or maybe I want. It's like one guy. We're supposed to have a democracy that prevents one guy from having that kind of power.
No.
Yes.
No.
Your checks.
Hey, listen to me. No. In the
tell me why.
Because in the Constitution, it clearly says that the president
Article
is the
2
commander in chief of the military.
Yeah.
The Constitution intentionally gave the power to command the military to the president.
It's Article 2 power.
And
The war declaration capacity.
No,
not
not to declare-
declarations. But he can engage in strikes. He can move military around. And the reason why the founding fathers did this is because they learned the history of committee democracy and anarchy of the past. Great examples throughout history of when committees were gathering, like, we've been invaded, what should we do? Senate meeting, and they all run together, and then their cities are being ransacked.
And 3 weeks later, they're still meeting at the table while everything's going wrong.
Right.
So that's why he can respond immediately, because the president is the only one who gets the highly classified briefings on a daily basis or every other day or whatever schedule he sets, where he gets intel briefings on what's going on around the world. And the requests are then made by the Department of Defense or whoever that they want to move these troops or do this or that, or this general wants to, like the testimony that I can't remember the guy's name, but he was in charge. He had been called on the carpet by a bunch of female congresswomen, and they were upset with him because he gave the order to kill 200 mercenaries that were in between our operators and their targets in Syria. And he said, yeah, I gave the order and we eliminated them because they were mercenaries and they're affiliated with no other military, so we were not required to give any notice. We wiped them out because they were in our way. Next question. Well, he was able to do that because he'd been given authorization, and that was the rules of engagement and how far he could go set by every president. Like President Trump authorized the dropping of the MOAB during his first term. He gave that authorization. And then he said afterwards, if you need to use it again, we don't have to go through all these hoops, just do it. So they used it one time. But it's up to the president to set the rules of engagement and what type of authorizations they need from him. But at the end of the day, he can authorize and then go back to Congress after.
I appreciate authorizational authority. You need it to remain agile in conflict. But if we're planning an invasion of another country, it's not an emergency. We have weeks to debate this in Congress. It's Congress's decision whether or not we're going to deploy troops or missiles on a foreign nation that has not aggressed on us.
I don't think that we're at a point where we're planning an invasion yet.
That's what we've been talking about.
But wait, I'm just going to get with you right here. We're going to link up arms on this. Congressional authority should mean that they're already in meetings with him demanding to know when he's going to come and present his plans to Congress. But we haven't had a Congress like that since I've been an adult.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they just, they've ceded everything that's their responsibility to the bureaucracy or to the executive or to Supreme Court. So they don't have to be the ones to take responsibility for it because they're up for election every 2 years. They don't care about that.
My bet, so the Nimitz is supposed to arrive tomorrow.
Yeah.
My bet is still that Trump's going to say, we're going to secure the Strait of Hormuz. We don't want to engage in hostilities. Then, for whatever reason, I'm not going to speculate as anything beyond, U.S. forces are attacked in the region by Iran or Iranian-backed forces, and then the U.S. says we have no choice but to intervene.
They'll find a
Gulf of
Iranian
Tonkin 2.0.
passport floating in the water. That's proof it was an Iranian submarine. That's a shout out to 9/11.
Shout out to 9/11.
Check it out. They found his passport.
I think I've heard of it.
It's proof. Well, okay.
Shout it out.
I think you might be right, Tim. The false flag potential right now.
And again, I'm not speculating as false flag.
It could even be a video of a thing getting blown up.
So already we've got several tankers have been either collided or disrupted because of the communications, the jamming. There have been reports that the tankers that are going through the Strait of Hormuz are registering as being in rural Russia because of the signal jamming that's already going on because of the war. Iran is reportedly threatening to shut the strait down.
Yeah.
It's a power move they have because they control so much of it, which is going to piss off the Asian Peninsula, or I'm sorry, the Arabic Peninsula. And so the U.S. is going to say, and this is all speculative, I'm probably wrong, maybe it's a 7% chance happening, we are simply going to secure the access from the Persian Gulf out to the Indian Ocean so that our trade partners can keep trading their fuels and supplies, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion on the Nimitz. There's a loss of life. Reports all across the U.S. saying Iran has formally attacked, and then they're going to say this is war, and how could you disagree?
And it triggers a defensive pact, I'm sure, somewhere. Being the one that got attacked gives all your
Bahrain,
defensive allies a
Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they'll all say like this is horrible. We condemn this attack. We stand with the United States, and then you get war.
I got mixed feelings on the Iranian. I mean, I can't.
I will say this. Look, considering the way things are going in Trump's first term with the Abraham Accords, I'd love it if Iran, if there was a meaningful diplomatic way that changed the culture or the government structure by which the Abraham Accords could succeed without Iranian influence.
Interference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I think one of the things that a lot of these neocon types, interventionalists are looking at is Trump hit a grand slam with the Abraham Accords. Normalization of trade with Israel and other Muslim nations. Iran's the holdout. I mean, they are the major thorn in the side of these agreements. Trump wants world peace. I genuinely believe that. And you can make every argument you want. But I would say to the leftists, when they're like, Trump doesn't care about, he's an ego. Then my argument to liberals is this. Trump's got such an ego. He wants a gigantic golden statue of him for all time of the man who brought about world peace.
Yeah.
He wants that legacy. Iran stands in his way. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.